I was at the gym, mid-workout, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw my wife's name flashing. I wiped my hands on my towel and answered casually, expecting a simple hello, maybe a question about dinner or our plans for the weekend. But her words hit me like a hammer. "I'm leaving you," she said, her voice flat and almost cold. "For my lover. We're moving next week." I froze, dumbstruck, dumb with disbelief. My chest tightened, my heart pounding so fast I could barely breathe. I tried to speak, but the words stuck. "Wait, what?" I finally managed. She sighed, as if she were explaining something ordinary, not shattering my entire world. "You heard me. We can talk later, but I've made my decision." I hung up before she could respond, my hands trembling as I held the phone. The noise of the gym faded around me. The clanging of weights, the pounding music, even the chatter of other people, it all disappeared. I sat on a bench, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of the impossible. We had shared 10 years together, built a life that I thought was steady, predictable, happy. We argued sometimes, sure, but nothing that made me imagine she could leave so suddenly. My mind raced, going over every conversation, every small disagreement, every time I thought we were fine. Had I missed signs? Was this my fault? The anger started to simmer, but it was mixed with deep, crushing sorrow. When I got home, the house felt emptier than it ever had before. Her things were still there, scattered as if she had left in a rush, or perhaps intentionally, to make her absence more painful. I walked through the rooms, touching objects we had shared, trying to remember the life we had built together, the mornings we laughed over coffee, the quiet nights on the couch. But now, everything felt hollow. I didn't cry at first. I couldn't. My mind refused to let me. I just sat in the living room, staring at the walls, the reality sinking in slowly like water into sand. Over the next few days, I tried to reach her. I called, I texted, I even went to her office, hoping for some explanation, some chance to salvage even a tiny piece of what we had. But every time, her words were the same. She had made her choice, and I had no say in it. Friends told me to move on, to focus on myself, to remember that I deserved better. But moving on felt impossible. The betrayal cut deeper than any argument, any disagreement we had ever had. This wasn't just leaving, it was leaving me for someone else, dismantling the life we had built in a single decision. Weeks passed, and the emptiness didn't fade. I forced myself to go back to the gym, to work, to routines I had once shared with her. I slept poorly, ate less, and yet, in the solitude, I found a strange clarity. I realized that the life I had built didn't depend on her presence. My career, my friends, my dignity, none of that disappeared when she left. I began to focus on myself, to reclaim the time I had lost worrying about someone who clearly didn't value me. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the city lights, I made a decision. I would not beg her to stay. I would not plead for her affection. I would rebuild my life stronger, with or without her. The first step was practical. I started sorting out finances, ensuring that her leaving wouldn't disrupt my stability. The second step was emotional. I enrolled in therapy, spoke to close friends, and slowly, carefully, began to process the betrayal. I allowed myself to feel the pain fully, and in doing so, I realized that pain wasn't weakness. Pain was clarity. Months later, I received a message from her, hesitant and filled with regret. She admitted that things hadn't worked out with her new partner, that leaving had not solved the emptiness she felt. I read her message, my hand steady, my heart calm. I did not respond immediately. I realized that closure didn't come from reconciliation, but from strength. I didn't need her apology to move forward. I had already begun living my own life, and that life was better, more honest, more centered on me than it had ever been. By the time her moving date arrived, she had left the house, taking nothing but her belongings and leaving the door open behind her. I stepped over the threshold, took a deep breath, and finally let myself feel relief. The chapter had ended. The betrayal had hurt, yes, but it had also shown me who I truly was, someone capable of surviving heartbreak, reclaiming dignity, and choosing himself first. Now, every time I go to the gym, lift a weight, or watch the sunrise alone, I remember that phone call. I remember the shock, the anger, the sadness. But I also remember the clarity it brought, The understanding that sometimes the people who leave you create space for you to find your own strength. That day, she left. But I gained myself. And that, Yanni, is a kind of victory that no betrayal can ever take away.